They didn't attack her because they were strong. They attacked her because they thought kindness meant weakness. That's the psychology of men like this. They feel powerful only when someone else is stripped of dignity. But then her husband arrived, a man with a violent past and perfect emotional control. And instead of reacting like an animal, Mateo did something psychologically devastating. He made them stay conscious inside their own guilt. No punches, no blood. Just a complete dismantling of the fantasy that made them feel untouchable in the first place.
Feels. Guys, picture this fading roadside diner. 3 absolute clowns are in there, laughing it up after just ripping a waitress's uniform. They're acting so tough, totally clueless about the absolute nightmare they just woke up. Feels. They have zero idea her husband is Mateo Marquez, yes, the Black Lion, an actual ghost of the criminal underworld built on pure violence. When that front door chimes, their fake tough guy act spills right onto the floor. Feels. True power doesn't scream for attention. You and I both know the loudest guy in the room is usually the weakest link. Feels. A coffee pot hits the floor and shatters. Bam! The whole diner freezes. Lena Marquez is standing by booth 7, holding her torn dress together while these punks just laugh like a pack of hyenas. Every other customer is completely paralyzed with fear. Feels. But here is the massive plot twist. Beneath Lena's shock, she already knows what these bystanders do not. In about 10 minutes, these arrogant guys are going to be completely wiped out. You cannot act like a monster and expect to outrun the karma. Feels. This whole insane mafia vendetta kicks off just as the sun goes down over the highway. Feels. 31-year-old Lena normally has this super peaceful vibe. She wears that uniform like armor, just giving everyone a warm smile to help the regulars chill out. To anyone else, she's just a sweet lady. But listen to this. Feels. Her kindness comes from surviving literal hell. Those eyes are hiding a crazy dark history of living with an actual mobster. She's just wiping the counter, trying to keep her trauma in check, when the front door chimes and wrecks her safe space for good. Feels. Honestly, burying your dark past never works. It is always a ticking time bomb just waiting to go off. Feels. Let's look at the absolute fools who signed their own death warrants here. They kick the diner door open, being super loud just to feel important. The leader is acting like he owns the place, while his 2 goons are barking trashy jokes. Feels. The boss snaps his fingers at Lena like she's nothing. But Lena does not even flinch. She just grabs the menus with a totally blank face, handling it like a pro. She knows giving a bully a reaction is exactly what they want. Feels. Her ice-cold calm seriously bruises their fragile little egos, making the big guy next to the boss sneer at her. Feels. So these 3 clowns steal the center booth just to intimidate everyone. The tension is crazy. The regulars are terrified, staring down at their food. Back in the kitchen, old Jimmy is practically sweating through his apron. Feels. When Lena walks up to take their order, the leader drops a nasty insult, begging for her to snap. They're just bullying her for fun, treating her like absolute garbage. Honestly, picking on a waitress just screams how insecure these guys really are. Feels. They keep pushing and pushing, completely blind to the fact that they are begging for a brutal mob vendetta to hit them. Feels. This is where things get super intense. Through all the trash talk, Lena stays ice cold. She takes the hits without blinking because she has survived way worse mafia stuff before. One of the goons actually asks if she is too dumb to get the threat. Feels. The leader gets so mad that he can't break her, he finally snaps. He grabs her wrist hard, telling her to show some respect. But real strength is not backing down. Lena just quietly asks him to let go. But nope, he crosses the worst line possible. Feels, yanking her uniform until the fabric literally rips open. Feels. The sound of that tearing fabric just echoes in the diner. Everyone is losing their minds, but Lena is rock solid. The old lady in booth 3 is gasping. A truck driver looks like he is about to risk it all to save her, and Jimmy drops his spatula. Feels. But Lena does not panic at all. She just breathes. The gang leader is smiling like a total psycho, loving the power trip. Everyone is frozen in pure fear, but she doesn't make a sound. She is locked into a dark reality. Feels. Already doing the math on the absolute massacre these idiots just invited into their lives. Feels. Then the front doorbell chimes. Mateo Marquez walks in, and the whole room drops 10 degrees. He's in normal clothes, but you can practically feel the lethal mafia boss energy coming off him. Feels. His eyes scan the room and immediately lock onto his wife's torn clothes and shaking hands. The truck driver instantly recognizes the walk of a straight-up hitman and puts his hands on the table, totally surrendering. Heels. Jimmy just disappears into the back. But those three punks? Clueless. They don't even notice the Grim Reaper sitting down. Arrogance makes you totally blind to the disaster standing right behind you. Heels. Mateo just sits there like a statue, staring dead at the center booth. When he finally speaks, it's a whisper, but it cuts like a knife. He just says, "Nah, come here. Check this out, guys. This is what real boss energy looks like." Lena walks over, Heels, totally ignoring her ripped shirt. The whole diner is holding its breath. The power dynamic in the room just aggressively flipped to the quiet guy at the counter. The gang leader's smug smile finally vanishes as he realizes he messed up bad. Heels. It's crazy how people only realize they are doomed when it's way too late. Heels. The fake alpha male, trying to save face, puffs up his chest and yells at Mateo. Honestly, it's wild watching a walking corpse try to talk. Mateo completely blanks him. Total silence. Doesn't even look his way. Instead, he just touches Lena's face. Heels. Noticing how her hands are shaking. He asks if she's hurt, and his voice is terrifyingly smooth. She whispers no, but they lock eyes, and the vibe is heavy. They both know he isn't just checking on her. Heels. That question was the start of a massive vendetta countdown. True love for a mob boss means total wrath, and things are about to get unbelievably bloody. Heels. To get why this is about to explode, you need Mateo's backstory. Years ago was the absolute king of the Marquez crime family. He ran things with crazy blood-bound loyalty. A total monster with a strict code. Lena, having a massive heart, Heels, looked past the mafia stuff and saw a damaged guy. She actually thought she could fix him. Big mistake. Trying to save a villain usually just breaks you instead. She fell hard, ignoring all the bodies he dropped, just desperate to heal him. Heels. She convinced herself he wasn't a butcher, tying her life to a guy who literally ruins people for a living. Heels. Guys, you know mafia secrets never stay buried. Their quiet little life was a total glass house. It all shattered during a fake peace meeting on a freezing night. 15 rival guys ambushed him and his crew. Total absolute shootout. Heels. When the smoke cleared, Mateo was just gone. Poof. For 8 whole months, the entire underworld thought the Black Lion was finally dead. Lena was completely crushed. She went totally off the grid, grieving this crazy, toxic love. Heels. Sometimes surviving is way worse than going down with them. But guess what? The dead man is back, and he is looking right at the guys who touched his wife. Heels. Picture this, guys. A totally quiet, rundown diner. You and I know mafia monsters never really vanish. They just take a nap in the dark. Years ago, Mateo showed up at Lena's door completely wrecked by fire and bullets. Heels. He was a ghost crawling back to the only person who kept him sane. They shared this crazy, unbreakable trauma bond. He straight up admitted he would lose his mind without her. So they tried to wipe the slate clean and play house. Heels. Lena opened this diner to pour coffee instead of scrubbing crime scenes. But look at this reality check. You can change your name, move off the grid, and pretend to be normal, but you can never ever bury the killer instincts of a real mob boss. Heels. It is just a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. Heels. Let's step into this diner. It kept the mafia drama away for 3 whole years, but peace never lasts. Mateo gets up from his stool and the entire room just freezes. He walks over to the booth like a straight-up predator locking onto his next meal. Heels. The loudmouth bully instantly feels the vibe shift and tries to save face, stammering some lame excuse about just messing around with the waitress. Meanwhile, his buddies look like they want to bolt. Mateo stops right at their table, Heels, dead-eyed under the harsh lights. Without even raising his voice, he drops a simple order. Stand up. The bully is glued to his seat, totally paralyzed. It just goes to show, your tough guy act vanishes the second you mess with a real heavy hitter. Heels. What? I said. Stand up. Mateo doesn't even blink. He has that icy calm of an enforcer who has buried dozens of guys. That blank stare makes the bully's hand literally shake against the table. The guy stands up, terrified. Heels. Trying to look tough while begging for zero trouble. Mateo's voice drops like a hammer. Then you should not have touched her. Right then, some old trucker steps out of the shadows, looking pale as a ghost, and whispers something into the bully's ear. Heels. The thug's face instantly drops. Oh God, he chokes out. You are the Black Lion. Boom. Plot twist. You see, no matter how hard you try to play dead in the underworld, your legendary mafia reputation will always catch up to you. Heels. The stocky guy jumps back, smashing a glass on the floor. His buddy is already inching toward the door. Mateo flashes this empty, terrifying smile. Now you are getting it. The bullets are shaking uncontrollably. Heels. All that fake gangster energy just turns into pure panic. We didn't know, he stammers out. We wouldn't have. Mateo boxes him in. Wouldn't have what? Hurt her, humiliated her, ripped her clothes? His quiet voice totally paralyzes the diner. Heels. You targeted her because you thought she had nobody. You thought you were totally safe. Mateo glances back at Lena, who is just watching these losers fall apart. Honestly, Heels, it proves one thing. These absolute cowards only act tough when they think there are no real consequences hiding in the shadows. Heels. You were dead wrong. The thug is literally choking on his own fear now. Look, Mr. Marquez, we didn't know who she was. If we knew, Mateo cuts him off, and his voice is terrifyingly calm. If you knew, you just would have picked on someone else. Heels. Someone who didn't have a literal hitman backing them up. Mateo tilts his head, reading this guy like a cheap book. That is what you're saying, right? The bully freezes up, totally exposed. Mateo just slides into the booth. Sit, Heels. The thugs share a panicked look, but they know running means instant death. The loudmouth collapses into the seat. Look at this, guys. Every bully acts tough, right up until they realize the person they messed with is way more dangerous than they are. Heels. The diner is so dead quiet you can hear the neon sign humming. Let's break this down together, you and I. Mateo leans back, looking super relaxed, just to mess with their heads. Tell me, when you walked in tonight, what did you see? The leader gulps. Heels. I don't get it. Mateo leans in. Simple question. What did you see when you looked at her? The guy stares at his shaking hands. I saw a waitress. Mateo is setting a trap. What else? Come on, you saw an easy target. Why did you do it? Heels. The younger thug finally snaps under the tension. We thought she looked soft. Soft? Mateo repeats like a death sentence. You mean weak. It is actually super sad. These street punks always mistake a woman's quiet, peaceful life for an easy target. Heels. The thug just looks down. He knows he's busted. Mateo taps his finger on the table, and all three guys jump like a gun just went off. Let me tell you what I see. I see a woman who survived hell. Her heart was totally broken, Heels, but she built her whole life back from scratch. Mateo's voice is low, packed with all that dark mafia backstory. I see someone way stronger than you pathetic cowards. The old trucker at the bar is just nodding along. Heels. The gang leader is in full panic mode now. We are so sorry. We will pay for the uniform. We will pay for everything. Honestly, it is so obvious. When bad guys apologize because they are terrified, they do not actually feel bad. Heels. They are just begging for their lives. Heels. You think this is about cash? Mateo's voice gets sharp, and you can finally see the mafia boss underneath. You embarrassed her in her only safe space. You think money fixes that? The stocky guy literally starts crying, completely breaking down. Heels. Then what do you want? We will do anything, please. Mateo just lets the awkward silence hang there, totally feeding off their terror. He looks over at Lena. She is just standing under the flickering lights, hugging herself tightly. What do you want? Heels. Lena? Every single person stares at her. She looks at these pathetic guys with zero emotion on her face. It goes to show you, the loudest guy in the room is always the biggest crybaby the second he realizes he is not the one in charge anymore. Heels. When you are tied to a mob boss, you want a different kind of payback. Lena doesn't want these guys buried in a shallow grave. She doesn't want to see blood all over her diner. She just wants them to feel the exact same terror they put her through. Heels. Her stare is completely dead inside, making them choke on their own guilt. Mateo reads her mind. He gets their whole tragic dynamic, and he respects her choice. He leans in, completely destroying whatever ego they have left. And then, without saying a word, Heels. He just snaps his fingers. It proves what real power actually looks like. Real dominance is not about yelling or throwing a punch. It is that terrifying dead silence right before the final blow lands. Heels. That snap hits the quiet diner like a literal gunshot. This is where the crazy underworld plot twist happens, guys. From the darkest booth in the back, two guys step into the neon light. One is this sharp, older guy, Heels, and the other is a mafia enforcer built like a brick wall. They move completely silently, like a pack of wolves cornering their prey. The street punks realize they messed up big time. All the color drops from their faces. Heels. Mateo doesn't even sound mad anymore. He just coldly promises that no blood will get on the floor inside. They are just going out back for a quick chat. It is a massive wake-up call. Heels. Being cocky totally blinds you to the heavy hitters quietly waiting in the dark. Heels. It never fails. The loudest guys always crack the fastest when the tables turn. The stocky dude is fully sobbing now, begging for his life, screaming that he has a family at home. Mateo just stares at him with absolute disgust. Heels. He points out the crazy hypocrisy. This guy did not care about family when he backed another man's wife into a corner. As the hitmen start grabbing them, the youngest punk totally loses it. He makes a blind, desperate run for the door, heels. But fear makes you trip up. The older enforcer just casually steps in his way, while the big guy grabs his arm with a grip that could break bones. They literally drag him out, heels. Running from your problems just makes it hurt way worse when karma finally hits, heels. In one last desperate move, the leader looks at Lena, begging her to call off her guard dogs. But she is way past showing any mercy. Her eyes are totally dead as she whispers that she isn't the one he should be praying to. Outside the window, heels. You can see two black sedans idling in the dark, just waiting to make these guys disappear for good. Mateo sits back down at the bar and slowly reaches out his scarred hand. Lena takes a shaky breath and locks her fingers with his, heels. It is a crazy moment. She is holding onto the exact same mob boss who brought all this violence to her door. He quietly apologizes for bringing their dark past back to life. It just proves that you can run as far as you want, heels, but your darkest secrets will always ride shotgun, heels. Let's take a step back and look at the absolute wreckage of this diner. Maria, who is barely 20, creeps out from the glowing kitchen. She is shaking like a leaf, wrapping a sweater around Lena and whispering thanks, heels. Lena stood her ground when anyone else would have completely folded. It is wild how surviving absolute chaos gives people this crazy strength. Meanwhile, Mateo is chilling in the shadows like a literal statue. This guy is a born killer, heels, just breathing heavy to get his racing heart back to baseline. Old Jimmy slides him a black coffee. No words needed, because in this mafia underworld, a quiet nod and a hot drink hit way harder than words after a massive shootout, heels. You and I both know how this works. When the dust settles, everyone looks for the biggest boss in the room. Jimmy literally backs away, completely submitting to the new apex predator. But Mateo? He is playing 4D chess right now, heels. He turns on his stool and actually apologizes for ruining their night. Boom, flawless character swap. 1 second he is the Grim Reaper, the next he is their personal bodyguard. An old lady starts trashing the goons who ran off, heels. And even this massive trucker steps up, trying to look tough next to the guy who just owned the entire place. Honestly, people will forgive a complete monster in a heartbeat, as long as that monster is the one guarding their front porch, heels. This exact moment is insane. Look at how everyone tries to drag a retired hitman back into the game. The trucker actually starts hyping up Mateo's bloody past, talking about how he kept the real sharks away 15 years ago, heels. He is begging for the legendary Black Lion to make a comeback to save their broken city. Mateo just stares at the floor, totally swearing his mobster days are dead and buried. But the trucker pushes it, saying a real king never abandons his turf, heels. Mateo completely freezes, hand locked on his coffee mug. You can literally see his jaw clenching under the neon lights. He knows the ultimate rule of the criminal underworld. The second an old boss picks up his gun again, heels, his peaceful life is totally over, heels. Stick with me on this, because Mateo is dropping a masterclass in pure revenge. The diner goes so dead quiet you cannot even hear the neon sign. Mateo stands up, looking like a total boss, and drops a bombshell, heels. He promises those thugs will not get a single broken bone. He is going for something way worse. Maria whispers from the kitchen, wondering what could be worse than a beatdown. Mateo's eyes go pitch black, heels. He is going to drag them to face the broken families they ruined. A busted rib heals, but true payback is messing with their heads. Making a street thug feel pure guilt is the ultimate way to destroy them from the inside, heels. The tension is insane until Lena finally speaks, totally terrified. She thinks the legendary mob boss is waking up again and asks if he is tossing their quiet life in the trash. The second she says that, Mateo's tough guy act completely crumbles, heels. Underneath all that mafia muscle, he just desperately wants to protect her. He grabs her shaking hands to calm her down, swearing he is not trying to take back his bloody throne. He just wants to snap this cycle of violence for good, heels. The whole room holds its breath as he explains his vendetta. Locking up broken gangsters never actually stops them from hurting people. To really break a criminal, you have to force them to face their sins, not just lock them in a cage, heels. Suddenly the whole vibe in the room flips. An old guy leans in and asks what happens after these punks face their own twisted souls. Mateo stays super chill, saying he will give them one chance to use their violent skills to protect innocent people, heels. He knows most of them will completely blow it, but a few might change. The trucker finally gets it. This is not just mindless payback, It is actual justice. Then Jimmy sneaks out of the kitchen, looking like he wants the floor to swallow him whole. Feels. He admits he froze up while the gang was terrorizing everyone. Honestly, you cannot blame the guy. Courage is not just walking around without fear like some superhero. It is being absolutely terrified but deciding to step up and fight anyway. Feels. Jimmy is sweating bullets, completely crushed by regret. He mumbles that he should have thrown hands the second the gang started acting up. Lena tries to make him feel better, saying regular folks are not built for street fights. Feels. But the old lady is having none of it. She calls their silence pure cowardice. Now watch Mateo's next move. He looks at everyone and lays down the law. He tells them the next time some street trash rolls in, they need to make a massive scene. Scream, feels. Smash a glass, break the silence. Bullies only win when victims freeze up. The absolute best way to beat fear is to get loud and refuse to be an easy target. Feels. The trucker shakes off that helpless feeling and pulls out a dirty napkin. Plot twist. He actually wrote down the gang's license plates right before Mateo went sicko mode. Mateo gives him a slow nod of respect. Feels. Proving that even small acts of defiance matter. But then Mateo just totally deflates. The massive weight of his old mafia days hits him like a truck. Lena slides right up to him, resting her head on his chest. Feels. He goes from being a total menace to a giant teddy bear in 2 seconds. Outside, it is an empty highway, but inside, the whole squad has bonded. Sticking together when things get terrifying turns random victims into an absolute fortress. Feels. The crazy tension finally drops as everyone chills out. The trucker grabs a seat, the couple sits down, and things almost feel normal. Forks clink on plates, but honestly, nobody in that room will ever be the same. Feels. Mateo closes his eyes and sips his coffee, bringing his adrenaline down. Lena is glued to his side, using his tough energy to stop shaking. The diner looks like a chill late-night spot, but everyone is traumatized. Jimmy walks over with more coffee. Feels. But Mateo just waves him off. 20 minutes pass with zero talking. Real recovery does not look like an action movie ending. It happens in the dead quiet, just trying to catch your breath after surviving pure madness. Feels. Mateo finally breaks the silence, grabbing Lena's arm to help her up. He whispers that it is time to finish his dark vendetta, but Lena is not having it. She digs her nails into his arm, telling him to stop right there. Feels. Everything else blurs out as these two lock eyes in an epic standoff. She demands he drop the revenge plot, reminding him they promised to live a normal life. Mateo argues those goons need to pay for scaring her, but Lena stands her ground. Feels. She says they bruised her pride, but they did not break her. That is a massive lesson. Taking a major hit does not mean you are ruined. It just proves your mind is built like an absolute tank. Feels. Lena puts her hand on his chest, feeling his heart going absolutely crazy. Mateo clenches his jaw, clearly fighting some major demons. He asks if she seriously wants him to let those street sharks off the hook. Lena does not even blink. Feels. She tells him to go ahead with his twisted revenge plan, but drops a massive plot twist. She is coming with him. Mateo looks like his brain just short-circuited. Let's unpack this together, because her past makes this make sense. Feels. Lena used to work with totally ruined kids, believing anyone can bounce back. She knows the real secret to surviving trauma. You cannot just wait around for a mafia boss to save the day. To truly recover, Feels, you have to jump right back into the fire and save your own skin. Feels. You and I are unpacking a masterpiece of revenge today. Lena's inner social worker wakes up, ready to face her abusers head-on. Mateo, her mob boss husband, instantly shuts it down to keep her safe. But Lena grips his arm tight. Feels. She is fighting for her very soul. If she lets him play the shield, she stays a victim forever. Pointing a shaking finger around the diner, she calls out everyone, including Mateo, for treating her like broken glass. She refuses to stay caged. Feels. This is the absolute trap of deep love. We jump in front of bullets for people, completely blind to the fact that playing the hero steals the strength they need to save themselves. Feels. Picture this scene. The camera zooms in on Lena under these harsh yellow diner lights. She breaks down the insane power dynamics in the room. The second Mateo walked in, he took over, radiating pure mob violence. Sure, Feels. She loves him for being her attack dog, but she spots the fatal flaw. If he just wipes these guys out while she watches, she never gets over the trauma. The whole diner goes dead silent. Then Jimmy, the cook who has seen way too much street drama, Feels, chimes in. His voice is pure gravel. He says rushing to rescue someone just steals their power. Real healing only happens when you step back and let the victim get their own payback. Feels. Look at the absolute boss energy in this room. This old lady stands up, smacking her cane on the floor like a gunshot. Staring Mateo down, she backs up Lena's grit. For 2 brutal years, she watched Lena handle violent thugs with zero fear. Feels. Tapping that cane again, she tells the Mafia Don to drop his toxic savior act and let his wife fight her own war. You can literally see Mateo buffering. His mob instinct to kill is crashing hard into his respect for her boundaries. Feels. It drops a massive truth bomb. Sometimes real love means standing totally still and betting everything on the crazy strength of the person you care about. Feels. Mateo lets out this heavy breath, finally dropping his need to control everything. He asks for her game plan. Lena flat out admits there's no Mr. Strategy. She just desperately needs to face these scumbags and prove she is not some weak prey. Feels. The camera locks on Mateo, realizing how crazy brave she is. He calls Marco, giving the ultimate order: cancel the hit and bring the trash inside. He hands the entire spotlight to his wife. A 5-minute countdown drops. Lena is low-key panicking. Feels. Heart pounding, but she nods. It is wild, but the only way to kill a nightmare is to stare right into its dead eyes and refuse to blink. Feels. The lighting shifts the second Mateo touches her face. He gives her one final warning. If these punks make one single threat, the mob boss comes back out to play. But Lena grabs his wrists with insane grip strength, demanding he trust her completely. Feels. Mateo closes his eyes, looking like he might snap from the stress of letting her do this alone. When he opens them, the ruthless Don is gone. He is just a guy in absolute awe of his wife. Outside, headlights cut through the dark. The targets are here. Feels. Lena straightens up, swallowing her fear. Here is the crazy reality. Getting your peace back usually means walking straight back into the fire that burned you. Feels. The diner door kicks open. The 3 abusers get shoved right into the harsh lights, forced to stare at the woman they thought was an easy mark. They look completely wrecked. The tough guy leader has lost all his swagger and looks dead inside. Feels. His buddy is literally shaking out of his mind. The youngest kid just stares at the floor, drowning in regret. Marco, the deadliest guy in the syndicate, gives Mateo a nod before giving Lena this look of total respect. Feels. This whole setup proves nothing is more terrifying than a broken person putting themselves back together. Feels. Okay, you and I need to pause and appreciate this massive vibe shift. When the cops asked if she really wanted to drop the charges, she gave them a death glare. Now this diner is a gladiator arena. Lena steps to the center. Feels. Holding a soft sweater over her torn shirt, flexing her survival. The bullies are now the absolute prey, backed against the glass. The late-night crowd turns into a silent jury watching a legendary psychological beatdown. The alpha bro, Feels, his ego completely shattered, tries to stutter out a fake apology. Lena shuts him up with one single syllable. Her voice is dead quiet, but it packs enough authority to instantly vaporize his pathetic little excuse. Feels. You could hear a pin drop when Lena tells the leader to shut his mouth. The camera catches every drop of their sweat. The beefy guy is squirming, while the skinny kid is practically folding in half, trying to disappear. Lena takes a step forward. Feels. In the back, Mateo is a statue, fighting every mob instinct he has just to let her work. She stares the leader down and asks if they even know what public humiliation does to someone. He freezes up. She completely dismantles their tough guy act. Feels. Exposing them as weak losers desperate for control. Then she drops the mic, whispering that their attack totally failed to break her. Just because the paint is scratched does not mean the house is falling. Feels. The wildest part? She never even yells. Her words are cutting right to the core of her trauma. They didn't just ruin her outfit. They blew up a piece she spent 3 grueling years building. You can feel the whole room hurting with her. Feels. An old guy is crying, and the cook is gripping the counter ready to swing. Pointing at the booths, Lena explains this diner was her safe zone. She forces them to realize they nuked a sanctuary for broken people. The cook nods hard. Feels. Then comes the biggest plot twist ever. Instead of letting her mob husband catch a body, she gives them a choice. They took her control, so she weaponizes their own free will right back at them. Feels. You and I have to respect the genius of this trap. The gang leader's face actually lights up. He puffs his chest, thinking he just scored a get-out-of-jail-free card. Then the camera zooms in as Lena drops the absolute hammer. Feels. She points to the shadows where Mateo is lurking, letting the whole mafia threat hang in the air. Deadpan, she lays out their doom. If they walk away, his cartel will systematically ruin their lives forever, guaranteeing endless paranoia. Feels. The punks freeze in pure panic. She breaks their minds before offering one tiny escape hatch. It is no free pass, though. She locks them into the most brutal grind possible to force some actual painful redemption. Feels. Her terms hit the room like a judge's gavel. She sentences them to ultimate psychological torture. No jail cells. Instead, they must work for families who lost loved ones to trash bags exactly like them. Feels. They have to serve them and soak in the endless misery they cause. The youngest kid, his voice cracking, asks how long this lasts. Lena does not even blink. She coldly states it goes until their sick brains are completely rewired. Feels. She glares at the leader, who looks away, proving he is a repeat offender. This punishment will not stop until their violent egos are completely burned away. If they cannot change, they rot in this emotional hell forever. Feels. Stripped of his fake alpha swagger, the leader stammers out one last question. What happens if they say no? Feels. You and I are jumping right into the chaos. Out of the shadows, Mateo drops a threat so heavy it hits like a tombstone. He promises his syndicate will totally erase them. That reality completely breaks the tough kid. He hits the floor, Feels, crying and begging. Lena just stares, totally unimpressed. She tells him to shove those fake tears and actually grow a conscience. Then, the scene gets crazy. This 80-year-old grandma slowly shuffles over, Feels, her cane scraping through the guy's pathetic sobbing. She gets right up in the gang leader's face. One death glare from her completely vaporizes his fragile ego on the spot. Feels. The grandma's voice is just pure heartbreak. She tells him how her own grandson was wrecked by lowlifes exactly like his crew. She uses that grief to absolutely gut the leader, telling him the universe does not hand out free second chances. Feels. Real talk. Redemption is earned by dragging around the absolute misery you caused. She turns around, her cane tapping away, and the boss totally loses it. He starts bawling, his whole tough guy act completely shattered. Feels. He begs to know why they are letting him off the hook. Lena points at Mateo and drops a massive plot twist. The terrifying mob boss protecting her today actually went through this exact same brutal boot camp to win his soul back. Right then, Feels, Marco kicks the diner doors open. Feels. The camera catches the hitman looking crazy menacing, forcing them into a corner. We are literally watching these big, bad apex predators get completely defanged. The whole gang just gives up, their arrogant vibes instantly turning into pure submission. Feels. The leader slumps over, totally defeated. Marco steps up looking like an absolute unit to bag them up. It is honestly pathetic when the broken boss whispers a shaky thank you to the guy who ruined his life. Lena stays totally cold. Feels. Giving zero sympathy. Those massive steel doors slam shut like a vault. Lena finally takes a breath once their taillights vanish. Skip ahead 21 days, and a text alert totally blows up the quiet. Feels. Lena reads the screen, confirming the guys are actually playing along. She looks over at Mateo, who gives her this tiny questioning look. She quietly tells him they are following the brutal rules. You literally see the stress melt off the guy's face. Feels. But here is the massive question. Are these dudes actually changing, or just faking it to dodge a bullet? Only time will tell. Marco's program is basically a psychological meat grinder. To crush their toxic mafia bonds, these guys are totally isolated, Feels, stripped of their tough guy attitudes and dumped straight into the broken lives of their victims. It is an absolutely wild setup for some major karma. Feels. Check out Derek, standing awkwardly right on the Castellano family's front step. The mom inside is totally crushed by trauma because a mob crew murdered her husband 3 years ago. She has 2 teenage boys who desperately need their dad back. Feels. Derek is supposed to be doing yard work, but the vibe is insanely toxic. On day 1, he shows up at 6 a.m. sharp, trying to play the good soldier. The door swings open, but the mom gives him absolutely zero greeting. Feels. She just hits him with his soul-crushing stare that strips him down to nothing. Sounding like pure ice, she claims he is late. Boom, absolute power move. She is totally weaponizing her grief against him. Feels. She hands him a totally insane schedule without even blinking. When Derek tries to say he was on time, she shuts him down fast, making it clear he cannot win. She tosses him the keys, basically daring him to prove he is not a monster anymore. Boom. Feels. Hard cut to the car. The boys in the back seat are radiating absolute pure hate. The silence is crazy heavy, just the engine humming. Finally, at a red light, everything explodes. The older kid leans up and verbally shreds Derek in the mirror. Feels. He completely destroys the twisted mob logic that killed his dad, calling out the absolute joke that hurting people makes you powerful. Pure vendetta energy right here. Feels. The kid builds a massive emotional brick wall, telling Derek to shut up drive, and basically not exist. Derek just takes the hit and nods, but watch the lighting shift here. Fast forward 21 days, and things are wildly different. Feels. Derek is sweating buckets, his hands totally wrecked from fixing a broken porch the dad never finished. He bought the wood himself and expects zero hype for it. Inside, the widow is watching him. Feels. She keeps her icy silence, but finally nudges the screen door open to leave him some food and water. Look, it is not total forgiveness yet, but it is a massive crack in her armor. Real talk. True redemption starts with doing the quiet, feels, thankless grunt work. Feels. Stick with me here. The drama gets totally insane. Watch Derek get pushed to his absolute limit. He gets stuck waiting 40 brutal minutes in the blazing heat for a forgotten item, and he does not complain once. When he gets back, feels, the little brother actually gives him a tiny smile. But the older kid is still acting like a bouncer, just waiting for Derek to show his true colors. When you are traumatized, you think every nice thing is a trap. Later on, feels. Derek is standing outside in the dark, secretly listening to the family fighting. The younger kid actually stands up for Derek's hard work. The older brother instantly loses his mind, screaming that doing yard work does not fix murder. Feels. The older kid drops a massive reality check. Why should they give this total monster the time that was robbed from their dad? The silence after that is totally deafening. Then, the mom speaks up. Her voice is shaking, feels, but she brings up her dead husband's belief that people can actually change. It is a crazy heavy moment. Forgiving someone is basically the only way to stop torturing yourself. Outside, Derek gets absolutely wrecked by this. Feels. His tough guy mafia attitude completely shatters, and he just collapses against the wall, bawling his eyes out from the pure guilt. All right, let's turn to the next file together. Ryan, a former hitman, Feels, is now playing bodyguard for a girl completely traumatized by an assault. Feels. Frame the shot on Ryan, a dude whose whole brand was breaking skulls, now forced to babysit a totally broken victim. The first week is an absolute nightmare inside that car. She is shaking in the back, totally terrified of him. Feels. The camera catches Ryan staring in the rearview mirror, literally whispering apologies to nobody. By week 2, she finally asks him why he beat up that random waitress. His answer is a total gut punch. He mumbles that he thought she was nobody. Feels. He literally treated people like garbage to justify his mob hits. Now the guilt is absolutely eating him alive. He grabs the wheel, practically crying, and begs her to tell him how to fix it. She just says, "You cannot." Feels. She tells Ryan his only play is to stop being the actual worst. Boom, hard cut to Kurt, sweating like crazy in a grimy Bronx community center. This place is exactly where his old victims grew up. Feels. He is scrubbing graffiti while a hardened social worker named Diana watches him like a hawk. When she grills him, Kurt completely cracks, spilling all the nasty details of his mafia days. Diana does not even blink. Feels. She lets that awful truth just hang there before hitting him with a massive reality check. She points at the kids and says half are hiding from goons like him, and the rest are desperate for a dad they never had. Feels. Look at this, guys. Diana points at the gym, handing Kurt a terrifying ultimatum. To wipe his slate clean, he must become the shield these broken kids never had. Watch as the days blur and Kurt's brain literally rewires itself. Feels. We see him grinding under late-night desk lamps, tutoring teens, his skinny frame buckling under their insane trauma. This forced empathy is violently ripping his mob ego to shreds. Cut back to the diner. Lena sits with Mateo, Feels, asking if this wild experiment is actually legit. But Mateo, staring out at the street, knows how messed up human nature is. Even if these goons relapse, the desperate play to fix them is absolutely necessary. Feels. It proves a brutal point. Most people never even attempt to change. Feels. 6 weeks later, the diner door chime slices the air like a literal knife. Lena looks up, and her blood runs ice cold. It's Derek. The camera zoomed his insane physical decay. Bro is a walking ghost. Feels. His face completely hollowed out by weeks of brutal guilt. His hands, which used to smash people, are shaking like crazy. Instant panic hits the room. Jimmy scrambles for the phone, freaking out. Mateo, built like a tank, is already out of his seat. Feels. Locked and loaded for a brawl. But watch Lena here. Total boss move. She forces her racing heart to chill, gently drops her rag, and uses her smoothest voice to command the whole room to stand down. Against all odds, Feels. She just absolutely dominated her own worst nightmare. Feels. Lena's voice cuts through the dead air, bringing oxygen back into the joint. Mateo stays locked onto the door. When Derek steps into the light, he is totally unrecognizable. No more monster. He acts like a kicked dog. He stammers that the boss, Marco, feels. Strictly banned this visit, his voice completely shattering under the guilt. You and I know how insane the urge to fake victim is. It drags you in. Lena coldly points to a booth. Derek practically collapses into it. The camera pushes in tight, heels. Across from this shaking wreck, Lena sits like a stone. His mob swagger is vaporized. All that's left is a broken shell, proving that when you wreck someone else's life, you eventually destroy your own. Heels. He talks stiffly, totally stripping away the mafia swagger he used to flex. His voice wobbles as he begs to use her first name. Lena gives him a green light, setting a frozen deadpan vibe. Across the table, Derek aggressively rubs the cheap table, heels, sweating out his nerves. Rolling up on her totally violates Marco's ironclad mob rules, a gamble that could get him whacked. But the guilt is eating him alive. Lena hits him with the most brutal move, absolute crushing silence, heels. It's a god-tier psychological play. When you give a guilty dude zero reaction, his brain spills all its toxic secrets. Tearing up, he chokes out his insane daily torture, scrubbing a murdered guy's floors and driving the victim's kids to school. Heels. He straight up balls while explaining the widow's next-level revenge tactics. Honestly, the sickest damage doesn't even take a punch. She literally just slid photos of her dead husband right next to Derek's morning coffee. No screaming, heels, just silent pictures of weddings and cute babies. Boom, his mafia armor instantly shattered. Every single pic was a sniper shot to his ego, forcing him to face the brutal reality of his hitman days. Tears are just pouring down his face, heels, completely nuking his pride. The absolute knockout punch? The teenage son walking in crying, getting jumped by kids just because his dad wasn't around to protect him. It's a savage reality check, heels. The fallout from your most toxic mistakes will always outlast the adrenaline rush of the crime. Heels. Derek is literally hyperventilating over the older kid's crazy rage. Right there, he hits a terrifying plot twist in his own head. He realizes he's not some mafia tough guy. He's a virus ruining the city. Heels. He admits his messed up logic, thinking being a monster equals power, directly caused that family's trauma. Watching him melt down, Lena feels a tiny bit bad, but keeps her poker face locked. Derek confesses he is terrified, heels, paralyzed by the thought that acting nice won't scrub out his dark mob DNA. Lena leans in, sniffing out the real reason for this risky meetup. Desperation hits his voice. He needs her to know his violence was just his own trauma talking. Heels. Healing only kicks in when the excuses stop. Heels. He completely separates her from his own toxic brain rot. Her quiet kindness acted like a mirror, exposing the hollow black hole in his chest. Digging his hands into his eyes, he drops a massive confession about his ego. Heels. Her basic decency made this tough guy feel incredibly weak. To protect his fake mobster image, he tried to mentally wreck her. The diner gets crazy quiet, just the sound of him gasping. Heels. He reveals the widow's daily politeness gives him that exact same weak feeling right now. But the lens flipped. He doesn't see kindness as an attack anymore. He sees it as unearned grace that exposes his absolute trash morals. Heels. True strength means taking the grace you don't deserve. He finally caves, completely broken, admitting he has zero right to beg for her forgiveness. Heels. He totally gets he has no right to a clean slate. To save his sanity, he must confess to the woman he destroyed. He makes it clear nobody forced him into this booth. He finally leveled up enough to feel the safety he stole. Lena absorbs the confession. Heels. Let's look at this closely, shall we? It is supernatural to just forgive someone so they stop bawling. But Lena is playing chess. She knows handing out a free pass totally wrecks the grind of actual redemption. Instead of dropping sweet quotes, Heels, she goes for the throat. She demands he name the exact core of her trauma. When he looks clueless, she drops the hammer. It was never about the public embarrassment. Sometimes throwing up a brick wall is the ultimate boss move. Heels. She totally skips past the basic physical fear. Staring a hole through him, she drops the real mind killer, that toxic paranoia that he forever deleted her right to feel safe. Derek physically crumbles under that guilt. But right here, Heels. Lena flips the whole script. She declares that real mental armor isn't given by mobsters. It's an unbreakable fortress inside her own head. She actively chose to delete his power over her. He weakly argues, Heels, whispering that her mercy is way more than he deserves. Boom, she shuts him down with absolute ice. Her comeback has zero to do with his little redemption arc. She is literally just serving him an eviction notice from her brain. The massive takeaway? Heels. Your peace of mind never belongs to the villains who try to break you. Heels. She completely cuts her glow-up away from his desperate need to play the good guy. His acts of service, she calls them out. Just tools to build a personality, not based on pure evil. He takes the savage reality check, quietly wiping his tears. Then, heals. Lena drops the ultimate boundary. She validates his apology and sees he's wrecked inside, but she brutally locks away the prize he wants, her saying, "I forgive you." True redemption is a solo mission he has to grind out in his own head. Heals. Derek takes the hit and slowly stands up. Walks away, she throws one last dagger. Staring your victim down takes insane guts. The ultimate lesson? Don't waste the sheer agony of finally facing your own villain era. Heals. The second that door shuts, the insane tension vanishes. Mateo instantly slides into the seat the hitman just left, locking Lena back into reality. The adrenaline crash hits hard, and she finally starts crying. But honestly, underneath the shaking, heals. She realizes she is absolutely bulletproof now. Mateo grabs her hand, dropping a massive truth bomb. By denying Derek that fake forgiveness, Lena forced him to swallow the only pill that cures corruption, brutal honesty. Outside in the freezing dark, heals. Derek stands under a flickering street lamp. In an absolute boss move of accountability, he shoots a text to Marco. He admits to the band visit, completely torching his old life of lies. Real talk, heals. Massive level-ups only happen when you finally step out of the shadows. Heals. Alright, you and I need to look at how crazy this timeline ends. Derek officially waves the white flag, totally ready for whatever brutal payback Marco is about to dish out. But boom, his phone buzzes. The widow just hijacked the chain of command, heals. She orders Derek to stay put. Why? Because his massive ego is completely crushed and he is finally choking on his own mistakes. Standing there in the dark, the guy actually feels some weird spark of hope instead of his usual toxic flex. Heals. Fast forward a few hours. The diner is locked up, reeking of bleach from the cleanup. Mateo and Lena are just chilling at the counter like absolute bosses. Turns out, surviving the mob underworld and finding real peace happens when nobody is watching. Heals. Let's check in on our duo hiding out in their neon-lit sanctuary. Pouring coffee is literally the only thing keeping them from a total adrenaline crash right now. Heals. Mateo is staring at Lena's silence with the dead eyes of a guy who knows the hitman life way too well. She is having a massive mental breakdown over sparing her enemy. She gave the scumbag a choice, a total test of loyalty. But now she is stressing hard. Heals. What if Derek was just capping to save his own skin? She mutters into her cup. Mateo just slices through her panic like an absolute savage. He flat out tells her that Derek's fake apologies mean zero now, because the guy is about to face total karma. Heals. Bottom line in this manhwa world, words are cheap and only brutal action keeps you breathing. Heals. But what if some innocent bystander gets wrecked while we wait and see, Lena asks, totally losing her cool. You and I gotta pause right here, because she is being crushed by insane survivor guilt. She actually thinks showing mercy made her look weak. Heals. Mateo is absolutely not having it. He steps right up, locking her down before she spirals completely. You are not soft. He shuts her down, destroying that insecurity instantly. Heals. He reminds her that giving a ruthless mobster a second chance is a massive power move. Honestly, Mateo admits his own mafia instincts would have just flat out annihilated those guys until they could not walk. This proves the ultimate plot twist. Heals. Being a total boss is not about crushing enemies. It is about having the insane flex to spare them when you could easily end them. Heals. The diner lights cast dark shadows over his face as he drops a crazy confession. His first thought was to absolutely terrorize those thugs. Going full berserker mode is super easy when you think you are playing the protector. But Lena calls him out, Heals, saying that going full villain would just ruin his entire redemption arc. Her voice is shaking now. When those guys ripped her uniform, her confidence took a massive hit. Seeing Mateo kick the door down like an action star felt incredibly safe, Heals, but it also totally triggered her. It forced her right back into that annoying damsel in distress role she absolutely hates. The worst part of this drama is not even the attack. It is having your independence ripped away, Heals, which takes insane guts to build back up. Heals. Get a load of this shot on Mateo. His jaw is locked. He leans in, flat out refusing to let her spiral into this massive guilt trip. You never needed a hero. He drops the line, his voice echoing in the diner. Heals. He highlights a huge difference between being completely helpless and just letting your partner tank some damage for you. But she is seriously crashing. She spent 3 brutal years building up this peaceful life. Then boom, in 30 seconds, Heals. 3 mob goons totally wreck it. She admits her biggest nightmare. Her nice girl routine's just fake weakness. Mateo completely shuts that down. He makes her look right at him and drops absolute facts. Heels. A bad guy being a violent creep says zero about her kindness. It just proves those thugs are absolute garbage inside. Heels. He stares her down now, breaking down those thugs with cold mafia logic. They went psycho simply because they are total losers. When Lena tries to fight back, he cuts her off. He describes exactly what went down when he busted through that door. Heels. He did not see some broken victim crying. He saw a boss fighting off pure panic by holding on to one fact, that her right-hand man always shows up on time. Lena finally breathes, nodding. She literally weaponized his daily routine to survive. Heels. Mateo spins this perfectly, hyping her up. Relying on your partner is definitely not taking an L. It is an insane top-tier level of trust, looking absolute mob evil in the eye and holding the line until backup arrives. Heels. That is a flex that mindless muscle will never understand. Heels. Lena crashes into him, letting his heartbeat calm her freakout. But her brain is still in a dark place. She thinks about a local widow ruined by these exact same mobsters. The survivor guilt is hitting critical mass. Heels. How can she just forgive when others got completely destroyed? Watch Mateo flip the script. He tells her that feeling all this guilt is exactly why she is qualified to show mercy. She knows the trauma is real. Heels. So she actually gets how insane a second chance is. He holds up his battered hands, proving he used to be a deadly enforcer. Being kind is not some naive joke. It is the hardest, Heels, most alpha move you can pull, planting hope in a crime world you know could burst into flames anytime. Heels. The framing zooms in on her shaking hands. Back in the day, she completely refused to let the mafia underworld drag him down, betting everything on his redemption arc. Mateo knows this is fact. She did not just pull him out of the gutter. Heels. She totally deactivated his ruthless hitman persona and rebuilt him from scratch. Thinking about this completely breaks her. She starts crying, confessing how severely depressed she got when he went me for months. Heels. She just wanted the nightmare to end. But when he finally dragged himself back to her, bleeding out and full of mob guilt, she realized something brutal. Seeing your partner turn into an absolute monster consumed by revenge? Heels. That is way worse than just putting flowers on their grave. Heels. Just peace, he drops in this gritty whisper. The guy perfectly nails how insane it is trying to escape the mob life. Going full savage is basically easy mode. Gang wars have super simple rules. You either hunt or get hunted. But peace? That is a massive, Heels, exhausting grind. It forces you to drop the weapons and actually deal with your own trauma. Mateo totally owns up to his mental struggle. For years, his default setting was punching his way out of panic. When he saw those goons cornering her, Heels, his inner mafia boss screamed for a massacre. The only reason he didn't snap was Lena. Love is like a massive anchor. It completely stops you from doing a villain arc, pulling you back even when you are dying for pure, unadulterated payback. Heels. They are chilling in the dark diner, two absolute survivors catching their breath after the craziest night ever. Lena drops a massive question. Does he ever miss that absolute high of being a feared mafia boss? Mateo keeps it 100% real. Heels. He admits he kinda misses that boss tier life where you take orders from nobody, but he completely trashes the insane cost of that lifestyle, watching your soul die while constantly checking for backstabbers. Heels. He looks around at the cheap booths and the coffee machines. This basic diner is not some prison holding him back. It is his ultimate safe zone. Look at this character development. The best kind of peace is usually hiding in the most normal spots. Heels. Because that is where you can actually level up your mental game. Heels. Real power, he says, is not about wrecking someone else to boost your ego. It is about keeping your chill when the underworld tries ripping your heart out. This is a massive glow up for a guy who used to run streets with pure violence. Hearing that, Heels. Lena finally stops stressing. She melts into his hug. I love you, she whispers, dropping those words like they survived an absolute war zone. He holds her tight, still mad at himself for being seconds late. Heels. But you and I gotta check her expression right here. That terrified victim look, completely gone. She cuts off his apologies, realizing something epic. That intense mob panic was not karma. Heels. It was literally the furnace she needed to level up from soft clay into absolute titanium. Heels. She finally gets it. Being nice was never a nerf. It is literally her ultimate defense stat. Mateo looks at her like she is an absolute legend, calling her the toughest person alive. Outside, cars zoom by. Heels. The whole city is completely clueless about the insane character development going down in this diner. We are looking at two badasses who literally assassinated their own toxic traits and chose to chill. For the first time since the ambush, heals. Lena takes a massive breath, her vibe finally resetting. Boom, 3 months time skip. The brutal summer heat turns into a cool autumn, totally chilling out the drama. The diner goes right back to the daily grind of serving coffee, heals. It shows us the real endgame. Boring daily routines, once you actually feel safe, are the absolute best way to heal, heals. Look at Lena now, guys. You and I are watching a total boss walk the floor. She still serves the tables, but the vibe is completely different. The locals feel that heavy aura instantly. Her smile is real, but that weak girl is dead and gone, heals. She owns this room now. Her posture screams one massive lesson. Kindness is a choice. Nobody is ever taking advantage of her again. Suddenly, the front bell rings. Every head snaps, heals. Shoulders lock up as the ghost of that bloody mafia shootout fills the diner. But plot twist, it is just old Mr. Patterson shaking out his coat. The whole room breathes a massive sigh of relief, heals. Mr. Patterson gets his usual coffee, and the diner chills out. But check out Mateo in the corner booth. Our guy sits there like a loaded weapon. He takes that spot, daily dark eyes scanning the door, tracking every move Lena makes, heals. You cannot dress a mob hitman in normal clothes and expect him to forget the underworld. His brain is locked in war mode, hunting for assassins. But when Lena catches his crazy stare, she does not panic. She smiles, heals, completely safe with her personal guard dog. It shows that real love means accepting the absolute mess of a person. The tension finally breaks when Maria screams an order from the kitchen, heals. Behind the counter, Maria is fighting her own massive mental war. She is literally a guard dog now, glaring at every dude who walks in, waiting for an ambush. Lena tries saying the mafia beef is over, but Maria is not having it. Honestly, heals. It leaves us with a solid message. Building massive emotional walls to protect yourself does not mean you must hold the line alone. The diner is buzzing until that bell rings again. Boom! The room goes freezing cold. Coffee cups stop moving entirely, heals. Derek, Ryan, and Kurt just walked back into the exact spot they almost burned down, heals. The tension is insane right now. Body language shows exactly who runs this turf. Jimmy freezes at the grill. Mateo slowly drops his paper, ready to snap necks. Mr. Patterson leaves his fork hanging. But our girl Lena does not even blink, heals. She steps right up to the mobsters, totally fearless. The silence is deafening. Then, massive plot twist, Derek finally speaks. No more barking orders like a crime boss. He actually begs to sit down like a regular guy. The alpha predator vibe is dead, heals, replaced by total submission. Ryan stares at his shoes, crushed by his toxic past. The real takeaway here? Ultimate boss energy is just quietly standing your ground, heals. The camera zooms in on Kurt. This absolute tank of a hitman is shrinking back like a kicked dog. Under the harsh lights, Ryan is literally crying, having a total mental breakdown. His voice cracks as he drops a bombshell, heals. The lady he threatened did not leave him outside. She actually invited him to her family dinner table. Next to him, Kurt nods. He mumbles about a mute kid at the rec center who just wanted him to watch a basketball game. For these hardcore thugs, heals, it is a crazy awakening to real kindness. The raw message here is simple. Even the worst villains just desperately want to belong to someone, heals. Look at Derek shaking like a leaf, totally crushed by his own mafia guilt. He starts choking up talking about Marco Jr. This poor kid dumped all his trauma onto Derek, thinking his dead dad would be proud of the guys fixing their porch, heals. Across the counter, Lena is rocking an absolute poker face, but you can see a tiny flash of pity. Suddenly, Mateo violently scrapes his chair, sending a massive warning shot across the room. Lena leans in and drops a massive truth bomb, heals. Real redemption is never about showing off when the cameras are rolling. It is about the brutal, quiet choices you make when you are entirely alone in the dark, heals. Derek shoots a desperate look at his boys, then back at Lena. He whispers that her crazy mercy literally saved them from going off the deep end. The whole diner is completely dead silent, watching these gangsters publicly surrender, heals. Lena drops the absolute law of the land. Let us look at this power move together. If they step inside again, they pay full price. They show total respect and they bury their mafia rage. One single mistake, and they are permanently blacklisted, heals. The takeaway is huge. Throwing down hardcore boundaries is the only real way to teach toxic people how to actually love, heals. Lena does not stutter once. She runs the room like a mafia boss, handing down a sentence, and these hardened killers just nod. She knows exactly how a bruised ego tries to play the hero. She stares right into their souls, heals, completely destroying any main character syndrome they had left. There is no medal, and her forgiveness is not for sale. They are only allowed inside because she takes in strays. Derek chokes back tears, thanking her like his life depends on it. Feels. She points them to a dark booth, throwing them a bone. The massive lesson here? Sometimes the wildest mercy you can give a broken villain is just a quiet corner to chill. Feels. Right before the goons sit, everything flips. This frail old lady from booth 3, who literally caught the crossfire of their last gang war, marches right up. She stares down these absolute monsters with zero fear. Feels. She tells them her grandson studies psychology to help guys with violent rage issues. She begs them not to quit, saying the world desperately needs proof that demons can turn back into humans. She walks away, Feels, leaving these thugs completely destroyed by wholesome hope. Over by the register, Mateo asks Lena if she is out of her mind. She has no clue, but she is doubling down. The message? Betting on a villain's redemption arc is a crazy gamble, Feels, but totally worth it. Feels. The diner finally goes back to its normal routine. Deep in the corner, the three thugs are completely silent. When they finally bounce, they leave a massive stack of cash on the table. It is basically a blood money apology disguised as a crazy tip. Feels. From the counter, Jimmy is sweating, wondering if this truce will actually last. Lena stares at the empty booth, cold as ice. She gave them the blueprint, but they have to grind it out themselves. Mr. Patterson calls her an absolute saint, Feels, but she immediately rejects the savior complex. The beautiful message hidden here? No matter how ruined your backstory is, every person still has the power to choose peace. Feels. Back in his booth, Mateo is a statue. The newspaper is just a cover while his eyes track Lena. He watches an absolute mastermind lock down her turf, holding off the mafia not with guns, but with brutal rules and pure class. Outside, police sirens scream, Feels, and the city keeps burning. But inside this diner, total miracle territory. This is not a bunch of beaten losers giving up. It is the insane mental struggle of apex predators actively choosing not to bite. Mateo and Lena lock eyes across the room. Feels. The real truth bomb here? A safe zone is never handed to you by society. It is a bunker you have to build yourself. Feels. Stick with me because you and I are breaking down this epic finale. These legends built a safe house right in the middle of a gang war. The mafia threats outside will never stop, but by backing each other up, they forged an absolute mental fortress. Feels. This diner proves even the darkest mob villains can get a rewrite. It shows that holding a guy accountable and showing crazy mercy are the exact same thing. Two hardcore survivors chose a truce over a bloodbath. Which brings us to the ultimate message. Feels. Real power is never about how many bones you can break. It is about having the strength to glue the shattered pieces back together.